talking to myself, hey, talking to myself, hey, in higher quality, and I'm talking to myself.
Hey, talking to myself. Welcome to the podcast. I know that you gon' feel Dave Sands, the second, talking movies and gaming, even anime. Yeah, I might just go Super Saiyan. 242, the Bahamas, we gon' rep. Don't be anxious about nothing. Philippians 4:6. Sharing about my life, sharing about God's truth. Always keep it real when I'm talking to myself. Let's go.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Talking to Myself, talking to myself, in higher quality, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm talking to myself, woo! With your host with the very most, Dave Sands, numero dos. Look at the thing, we got so much to talk about in today's episode. I do not remember what episode this is. I believe this is episode 41. What is episode 41 Spanish? Actually, no. I could stay in the camera and look it up here. 41 in Spanish is... 41 in Spanish... What is that? 41 in Spanish is... Oh... If I get that fast enough. Oh... 41 in Spanish is 41. So I believe this is episode 41. I'm going to double confirm that because I need to make sure that is correct. 41. Yes, episode 41, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness. I am so excited, as I usually am, to talk to every one of you. Thank you all so much for tuning into the last video. Actually, of course, I have access to YouTube analytics and things like that. That's probably one of the best videos I've had in a while. It did really well. The World Relays video did well. I think YouTube finally picked it up, and, it's a blessing that you guys enjoy that. But we move, man. Oh, my goodness. So much to talk about. So many things to discuss. Obviously, some things have been updated because, we got a lot to talk about. But as per usual, let's talk about PMS. For those who are new here, PMS stands for physical, mental, and spiritual. And that's the three ways I look at life. And so we're going to do a PMS recap. So physically, how am I feeling? Well, still on my workout grind, which is a beautiful thing. I don't know how many runs I did last week. I can't recall. But I think I mentioned it last time. Yeah, I did. In last episode, I mentioned that I kind of got back into running, which is an awesome thing. I sometimes get caught up in my head. I forget how to run. And really and truly, I get nervous that I'm going to gas out while running. But it's really about just going slow. And that's what I did. I run slow. I keep my breath control together, and then, I'm kind of able to run as long as I want to. And so, yeah, I think last week, I got in 3 runs. So, three, back-to-back, 2-mile runs is pretty decent for me in 1 week. And still keeping my breath, which is really good. So I'm really proud of myself for that. Obviously summer's coming around, so your boy gotta, gotta stay in shape. But yeah, it's been really awesome to continue my my fitness grind. If for some of you might be aware, I did 30 days of fitness. Go check out that video. And then I just kind of continue ever since. I haven't missed a day yet, whether that be I'm doing some form of stretching or some form of Zumba or weights or running, whatever it is. I've been able to do some level of physical activity, and so that's really good for me. And yeah, dude, that part of my life has been really good. Mentally, doing well as well. I think last week was very busy for me. Of course, some of you may know I'm part of a Christian youth organization called IOT, so this week is actually our Jesus March, which is insane. We've been advertising this thing for so long. I've definitely been grinding in my advertising on socials, and so this is the week that it finally happens, man. This Saturday, May 18th, at 9 a.m. we march from our key, and so to finally be at the point where we're going to do it, it's kind of a relief. I'm not gonna lie. It's a lot of work to put something like this together. I'm only one piece of several pieces of people putting this thing together, and even I'm definitely feeling it. But it's just amazing that we're finally here on March week, and then after that, I'm going on some well-needed rest. But yeah, mentally doing well, can't complain, and still grinding. Spiritually, oh yes, Spiritually, I forgot about this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally finished the book of Job. Oh my goodness. For those of you who may not know, your boy has been grinding through the book of Job, just reading 42 chapters. Like Job went through pain. Not gonna lie, I felt like I went through some pain as well, having to read 42 chapters of essentially knowing what the plot of the story is, right? Like when you watch a movie and you already know what's kind of happening right now. That's how I kind of felt in Job, because all it was Job's friends just being like, "You did this," and Job was like, "No, I'm innocent," and then his friends were like, "No, but you did that," and then Job is like, "Oh no, I didn't do this," and it's kind of like that back and forth for about 25 to 30 chapters, and you're just like, "Bro, like we like." Dude, but a lot of lessons could be learned from that. For me, I kind of took away is just the importance of friendship, especially like trying to understand one another when we're going through things. Like it is really, excuse me, it's really important to actually let people explain what they're going through instead of just assuming that we know what's happening, right? And so I think for me, that's the biggest takeaway I took from that. Obviously, Job, got back everything in 10 and like double. He got back everything that he wanted and even more, right? And so, it's a beautiful book. Won't be going there for a little while. I don't really know where I want to go in the Bible now. Definitely want to complete Job, and I could finally say that is done. That is finito. And I'm definitely gonna go towards. I think I mentioned in the last episode. I'm going to a much smaller book of the Bible. Maybe something I never read before. Something simple, and that I could, not have to like grind through. It was a grind, but hey, we made it through by God. But we move, man. So yeah, PMS, man. That's the physical, the mental, and the spiritual side of things. But yeah, life's been good otherwise, and we're keeping it moving. Kind of the elephant in the room. Uh, Things have updated, right? We got something now that is allowing me to do some recording, man, and so it's a beautiful thing. To be here. First and foremost, I was like thinking about just now, like where this thing started. 41 episodes ago, I was recording. How was I actually doing my recordings? I can't even remember. Yeah, for episode some of you might not be aware, but like the first like 8 episodes, I recorded like back to back to back before like the podcast launched, because my thinking was I just wanted to provide content off rip. There could be 8 episodes, and then I was gonna like take a break. That didn't happen. I released 8 episodes, and then I just continued from there, which kind of didn't make sense. I literally could have just released an episode every week, but that was my mindset at the time, right? That's what I wanted to do. Um, but yeah, I think yeah. How did I used to record back then? Okay, I used to go into. I can't remember the program. Anyway, there's a program that allows you just to record like Audacity. Yes, I used to go into Audacity, not sponsored, but they can if they want to. But I used to go into Audacity, just press record, use like my Apple headphones before I got this mic here, and then I would just record my audio. Then I would take that audio and put it like this through this like free like Adobe like compressor thing or whatever, basically to like make the audio sound better, because I didn't have like a dynamic microphone at the time. The audio wasn't the best, and obviously with a podcast, your audio was kind of your bread and butter, right? And so yeah, I used to run that, and then after that, we finally went visual. I can't remember which episode it was because I did a lot of episodes, but we went visual, right? And now we're still visual, but now the quality has been upgraded a little bit, and so I think it's just awesome to I could actually look at my channel um, and see the progression. It's a beautiful thing to see you grow, and I've definitely grown so much through this process. Like, I think this podcast has allowed me to do a couple things. Number one, like fulfill a dream of mine, which is like when I was younger, I wanted to be a YouTuber, right? And I started with like gaming videos and stuff. Maybe I could still do that, but I grew up watching gaming videos. I grew up watching YouTube, and I always thought it was so cool, and now to actually kind of be in this space and kind of do it is a beautiful thing. And so all glory to God for that one. Um, and I'm just so thankful to even have made it to 41 episodes. There was a comment. Um, can't remember which episode it was, but there's a YouTube comment that said like most podcasts don't make it past like believe it was like episode 21, and so to essentially be double that now almost is just like, dude, we came really far, extremely far, right? And so that's just like an awesome thing that's happening, bro. But yeah, man, we upgraded a little bit, you know. I could actually do like a real Q&A where like scroll through my phone. Actually, that might be the next video I want to do on here, like a little bit of a Q&A. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like next episode, I want to do like a little bit of a Q&A, kind of answer some people's questions, you know, talk some things out. I think it'd be a great video, and we could kind of keep it from there. But yeah, truthfully, I don't know what I'm titling this video. I have what I want to title this video. And do I want to make that the title of this video? I'm making that decision right now. Sure, let's do it. So the title of this video is gonna be like my new YouTube channel, or like starting a new YouTube channel, whatever it is. Um, and I kind of want to dive into that a little bit and kind of like speak as to my thinking and all those different things. So I want to start a new YouTube channel. I do. Um, Now that I've upgraded my setup a little bit, there are some things that I need to do now. The reason why this podcast actually came to be was because I went on a trip, you know, a little family, you know, vacation. And I started doing some filming there, right? I was practicing all up to the point where, you know, I was traveling, right? In order to be able to create, you know, videos and tell some stories, right, on my Instagram, right? Which you should follow, by the way. Link in description. But yeah, I was doing that to prepare myself, right? I wanted to create memories, and I wanted to record, and I wanted to like try something, because like I was going to these beautiful places and I wanted to just document them and kind of like, you know, just show people these beautiful places and tell stories and all those things. And so that is where my film side kind of started to kick in. And then like during that, I did like a little podcast series. Was like, it was like these mini podcasts. I think one was on the cruise itself, so I did like the on deck podcast, and then there was one where I woke up like 7 a.m. and I did like the morning or rise and shine podcast, or whatever it was, right? And so after I came back from that trip, I kind of felt lost from a content perspective, because well, the trip was over, right? And so then I realized, I thought about, you know, those little bits of the podcast that I did, and well, here we are. You know, actually doing a full podcast, right? It's a beautiful thing. But with that said, there are other things I want to do. You know, I think the thing about me is like, I don't like to put myself in just one box. For me, I have like a lot of ideas. I have a lot of I like a lot of different things, right? Of course, this podcast really talks a lot about my Christian faith, which I do enjoy talking about. And of course, you know, I got involved with things like, obviously, like MCing and stuff like that. I've been doing in my church for years, but also like joining like a youth Christian organization, then doing work there. And, you know, that part of my life has been very fulfilling, and, you know, that's been beautiful as well. And there are also other things I like to do, right? Like I love to game. I'm a movie lover. I love anime. I talked about anime on this podcast as well. But the truth of the matter is, like, this is a podcast, you know? And so with a podcast, you can only film in such a way for a podcast setting, right? Like, I don't feel as though, like, this, I mean, you can. No, everyone's different. This is just me. I just feel as though that I want to keep my podcast the podcast, keep the thing, and then somewhere else where I want to like create my cinematic films or like create vlogs or things like that, that's where I would like to be. And so I think, and I was trying to figure out where, but I want to create, I guess, my second channel, whereby that's where I get my film in, because I want to get back into cinematography, just creating short films and creating, you know, when I travel and stuff, because I got some beautiful things happening this year. Should I drop one? No, I'm not gonna drop one yet. But yeah, just some things I want to, you know, show, and like, just, you know, I just want to capture different moments of my life. And so I was just thinking about like I guess like the talking to myself, like conglomerate. I don't know if that's the right word, or the branches of it. So like one side is like the obviously the podcast here, and then the other side could be like excuse me, the filming and the cinematography and the vlogs and stuff like that. Just document different points in my life wherever I feel like I want to pick up a camera, and then maybe at some point I want to bring back the gaming, or maybe at some point I want to, just I just want to do different stuff as well because like, bro, I have so many ideas and I think I'm creative in some ways, and so I just want to be able to create amazing content all across the board. And I just want to say like well, when the record button finally goes off, and when I look back at life and be like, did I record everything I wanted to do? Did I create all the content that I want to? Then I could proudly say yes, I did. Because the point of this podcast for me was just like I didn't want to go to a point and reach the end of my life and be like, hey, I wish I did that, right? And so now that I have some more tools to actually do that, I feel like it's time, right? I feel like I have been ready to go in this thing. And so now that I got some tools and I got some equipment, it's time to film, ladies and gentlemen. So just to let y'all know, the podcast is not going anywhere. It's not. This is what started it all. So the podcast is not going anywhere, but the second channel will start to become alive, and that's what I want to do. So yes, I'm starting a second channel. I would have hopefully post something here or something in the beginning of this video or a link down below. But yeah, dude, I want to do that. It's something I've been thinking about, and I think it's something I want to do. Shout out to my homie Bryant. We had who I kind of talked to about a lot of different stuff and a lot of different things. We kind of had that discussion, and I think it's just really something I want to do. So shout out to you, homie. But yeah, dude. Speaking of prepare, beautiful segue because this is a podcast, right? There is a story that I read in the Bible that I just wanted to I reminded myself on because, like I said, finished the story of Job, and then I was just like, I'm kind of free willing, I have free reign to like, just read whatever I want now, fine, because like Job is done. Look at this. It zoomed in on my face. Anyway, but it's one story that I wanted to talk about really quick, and then we'll close this whole thing out. Is the story of David, right? And now I can look it up right here on my phone. So the story of David, right? Which is in 1 Samuel 17. And obviously, classic story. And I've talked about the story of David before already. So I think I came to the same conclusion already. But the story of David is a very interesting one. For those who may not be aware, David, young man. Let me give you a little bit of backstory. Okay, so 1 Samuel 17, we'll just read a couple verses and just paint the thing. Okay, great. So it says like 1 Samuel 17, Goliath challenges the Israelites. So the Philistines now mustered their army for battle and camped between Sokoh in Judah and Zakah at Zephisdam. Saul countered by gathering his Israelite troops near the valley of Elah. So the Philistines and the Israelites faced each other on opposite hills with the valley between them. Then Goliath, the Philistine champ from Gath, came out of the Philistine ranks to face the forces of Israel. So yeah, Goliath it says he was 9 feet tall, basically a center in the NBA, but just like 3 inches taller. Like, golly, he was huge. Wore a bronze helmet. His bronze coat of mail, weighed 125 pounds, things of that nature. If we scroll down a little bit now, Jesse sends David to Saul's camp. So obviously, again, Saul is the king. Did they say king of Israel? Yeah, he's the king of Israel. Right, when Saul, I believe it was, yes. When Jesse sends David to Saul's camp. So now David was the son of a man named Jesse, an Ephraite from Bethlehem in the land of Judah. Jesse was an old man at the time, and he had 8 sons. Jesse's 3 oldest sons, Elab, Abinadab, and Shemiah, had already joined Saul's army to fight the Philistines. David was the youngest son. David's 3 oldest brothers stayed with Saul's army, but David went back and forth so he could help his father with the sheep in Bethlehem. So we understand that David was a shepherd boy, right? And so, for 40 days, every morning and evening, the Philistine champion strutted in front of the Israelite army, we're dealing with Goliath again, right? And so I think the one point I want to jump to in this story is that essentially David, was again taking some of those things to his like where is it? Let me see. 1 second, y'all. Yeah. So basically, David was doing what he usually do, like take a basket of roasted grain and 10 loaves of bread to his brothers, and then he basically hears Goliath when he gets to the camp, where the armies of Saul were. He basically the giant says, who's gonna fight him? I'm just remembering like the VeggieTales story right now because it's very easy to remember. So gets there, be like Goliath's like, who's gonna fight me? David's like, well, who's gonna fight him? And no one wanted to fight him, but David was just like, well, I could fight him. And then one of his brothers got on his case about that, right? And if we continue on to to here, let's get to the point where King Saul um, sent for David, right? And so basically, David was just questioning, what would a man get for killing Goliath? It was just like, I believe it was like the taxes would be, yes, he will be given them. He will give that man one of it. So King Saul would give one of his daughters to him as a wife, and then the man's entire family will be exempted from taxes. So basically, whoever kills Goliath during this, battle between the Philistines, will get these things, right? And so, when King Saul kind of heard of David like questioning these things, King Saul kind of brings him up. And so he kind of summons him, right? And so yeah, basically David is saying like, now, I'll go fight him. He's saying, I'm gonna go fight Goliath, and then King Saul is like, don't be ridiculous. There are no ways you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he's been a man of war since his youth. But David persisted, I've been taking care of my father's sheep and goats, he said. When a lion or a bear comes to steal a lamb from the flock, I go after it with a club and rescue the lamb from its mouth. If the animal turns on me, I catch it by the jaw and club it to death. I've done this by both lions and bears. Oh my, get it? Anyway, and I'll do it to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the claws of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine. So then after that, Saul finally conceded, said, all right, boom, you go ahead. But then Saul tried to give David some of his armor, bronze helmet and a coat. David put it on. He didn't really feel comfortable like that. He never wore those things before, so he took it off. Then kind of the rest was history, right? David said, he's going to go. David picked up his 5 smooth stones, swing that thing round and round. Goliath was just like, am I a dog? He roared at David that you come at me with a stick, basically dissing David because obviously he's much more pequeño, much more smaller than Goliath. Boom, bap, beat. David, says, you come with me with a sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of the heavens' armies, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you've defeated. Today the Lord will conquer you, and I will kill you and cut off your head. Then I will give you dead bodies of men to the birds and wild animals. Jeez, David was definitely not afraid to say what he was going to do. And boom. So yeah, after that, David quickly ran out the battle kind of commences. Verse 49, reaching into his shepherd's bag and taking out a stone, he hurled it with his sling, one of the smooth stones he got, swing that thing round and round, hit the Philistine in the forehead, stone sank into Goliath's head. He stumbled, fell on his face, and his face fell on the ground. David tried over the Philistine with only a sling and stone, for he had no sword. Then David ran over, pulled Goliath's sword from his sheath. David used it and killed him and cut off his head, and boom, David was a hero that day. Whew. A lot of story, right? I don't have to even go. I'm so used to going over here now, like where I have my little setup. I don't have to anymore. It's crazy. But yeah, very, very inspiring story. Obviously, David having that much faith in God and not being afraid to stand up, firstly, for what he believes in and being able to take on a giant like Goliath. And the crazy part about it is, like, him taking, like, Goliath's sword. Like, I would like to assume that Goliath's sword was heavy and huge. So how was he able to lift it and then slice up his head? It's crazy. But I was reading that story yesterday, and one of the things that always gets to me about that story is that how prepared David actually was, right? Now, I only read that chapter in its entirety, 1 Samuel 17, and so I cannot speak on if it says anywhere in the book of First Samuel. If it says like anywhere like David was preparing to eventually fight Goliath, if it does, someone please let me know. So I could just know for myself, for my own understanding. But if it doesn't say that anywhere, that just means that David was just for what kind of gave to me was like David was just doing what he was supposed to do, right? Like, which was being a shepherd boy, taking care of the sheep, right? And so every time that a sheep went away, and every time he had to like fight a lion or a bear and grab that sheep out of them's mouths, like, he did it, right? He was built for it. He trained for it, right? And so by the time it was time for him to face Goliath, he already faced a couple Goliaths already, hypothetically speaking, of course, right? And so I think that's such an important thing to understand. Like, David been doing this. David been fighting Goliaths, like in the sense of like the lions and the bears, oh my, but he been doing this, right? And so we sometimes go through, and I was just thinking about this for me personally, but we sometimes go through life, and we go through different trials and tribulations and things like that, and we don't know why. Like when we're going, like for me personally, when I'm going through a different, a season in my life, a different storm, whatever it is, or I'm facing my own Goliath in quotation marks, I sometimes don't know why. I don't understand why. And then like 3 to 6 months later, I finally get that aha moment. I'm like, oh, that's why I went through that thing, right? And I think that's such an important reminder to understand because like we go through things. Obviously, the word says, Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And so we know that God has a plan. We just don't know what that plan necessarily is. I mean, some people already, for me in my life, as I kind of go through life by day, I kind of learn about what that plan is and things get revealed to me, all those different things. But we don't have the full timeline of what our life is going to be like, right? And so sometimes we have to go through these different struggles in order to face whatever Goliath is at the end of that, right? And what I was trying to get to really was just like, if David, imagine if David didn't go through the things that he went through before. Like, imagine if he hadn't fought like one lion or bear before he got to Goliath, right? Imagine that. Not saying that he wouldn't defeat Goliath. I think that, if it were that scenario, and this is just a what if scenario, so of course we know what the Bible says. But if he didn't, then he would still win because, if he still had that trust in God, then maybe he would still win, right? Again, a hypothetical scenario. But I think he wouldn't have had as much confidence if he didn't go through the things before. Like, he literally told King Saul, like, rate my work. I have been working so hard. I've been out here. I have been fighting these lions. I've been finding, like, I have done this both to lions and bears, and I'll do it again to this pagan Philistine too, for he has defied the armies of the living God. Like, he's been doing this, right? And so, because he had his trust in God, and on top of that, he had his experience with fighting lions and bears, oh my, he was ready to go. When Goliath come, he was just like, bro, send him this way. Like, I've been doing this, right? And so we have to rate David's experience highly, because he did what he's supposed to as a shepherd boy, which was to protect the sheep, which then allowed him and led him to the point where he had to face like, a huge giant 9 foot tall. Like, he was prepared. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I love that part of the story to me, because it just shows that like we don't know what we sometimes go through, but we have to go through certain things to get there. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? So whatever we're going through, whether it be good or bad, or the downright ugly, it could be used for a purpose, and so that's what the story of David means kind of to me. Like, it's a testimony of a young man who was just doing what he was supposed to do, and then when opportunity came to show, number one, that he had enough faith in God because of what he went through in the past, like, he was ready to go when he did what he was supposed to do, and boom, became the hero, right? And so, yeah, that was the story of David. That was kind of with me again, because of the story of Job now being done. I could kind of move around freely. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we most certainly and absolutely move. So yeah, homies, new channel on the way. This channel's still sticking around, and we're gonna keep this thing moving. And so, thank you all so much for listening to episode 41. It's been a time for sure, and I'm very excited to be here, and just grateful for the new sub, and just grateful for you all tuning in. So of course, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, smash that like button. Let's get to 100 subscribers. And until the next one, we most certainly and absolutely move. Yes, sirree, we move. Woo. Yes, sir.